I think there's something to having to switch that for people.
I will say it gave the introduction more pow. When it's showing just you and you're like, wait, where's the guest? And then you're talking about him like, what does he look like? Boom.
Wow. Cut to him. So we'll have to do that with this one, because back for round 2 here, we got my political correspondent, good buddy of mine now, Mike Patton, back on the mics. Man, we jumped right in and started chatting already.
Yeah, well, hello, and thank you for having me back on.
Yeah, man, thanks for coming back in.
Coming back up now.
Back
it was
up.
a 10 stair flight journey.
And the first one to take the stairs up to the penthouse, as it's being referred to as here now in the new SaltyFresh studio. But
well, when you go up in elevation, it became a little harder to breathe around the 9th floor.
Yes.
I could really feel the...
Yes. Yeah, and now we got to do stair runs, multiple times a week to be prepared for this. Oh.
Who does that podcast where they have to do the journey up the mountain? Tulsi Gabbard did it. A few other people that carry a rock. Oh my God!
Yeah,
this could be like your little version of that.
Up the stairs. Yep. That's not bad, man. That's not bad. Yeah, Cam Haynes does that one. I did see that one with Tulsi Gabbard. That's a good one. I like that podcast. Yeah, that's an interesting way to have a conversation with people. But he does the podcast separate, and that's obviously part of it.
But they come in. They're so pumped.
Yeah.
They feel like they accomplished something. Yeah. They sit down.
Interesting.
Some of the best beer I've ever had in my life.
Yeah.
And for those watching, I don't have a beer now because I don't like beer, but I am not drinking for the month of November.
And what led to that decision?
Well, I think it was last year and the year before I did Sober October. I think Rogan probably introduced the name of that, and I thought it was a cool idea. And generally in my life, I do a lot of things to copious amounts of whatever those things are. But I also have to not do those things. So I did decaf December, things like that. Just let my body say, we can still live without whatever this thing is.
Okay.
It also trains your discipline, I guess, if you will.
I get that. Yeah. Do you think when you come back to those things after a month, what's the body's first response when you introduce like alcohol back to it or caffeine back to it? Is it generally net positive, or how does that look when you introduce it back in?
It's a little more fun.
Okay.
It's like, that's why I like beer.
Nice.
It doesn't go back. I don't know. I've done this with a few different things. And I've also done some very long fasts. So I did 2 years ago, maybe right up to Easter. I was traveling to Wisconsin for Easter. I did a 5-day fast, me and a bunch of my buddies.
Dang.
So coming down to Easter, and I didn't realize this, but they planned their whole Easter dinner the day before Easter. So I was fasting during Easter dinner.
Oh, man.
But I wouldn't give it up because I told everybody.
That is some discipline right there, man.
I told everybody. I just sat there and I looked at it. Yeah. And then I think about 8 p.m., they convinced me that, a beer is not breaking a fast.
How hard did they have to convince you of this?
Not very hard.
Okay.
Well, they twisted my arm, and then I'm like, oh, wow. It was more curiosity that got me to do it, to see, okay, I haven't eaten for 5 days. What's a beer going to do to me?
Right.
Like, am I going to get, drunk on a beer or two?
Probably.
I'm like, whoa. Yeah. I didn't.
Okay. Huh.
Well, I didn't see a video, so maybe I was slurring my words and stumbling all over the place. But we went golfing. Maybe it wasn't 8 p.m. Maybe it was 4 p.m. I remember being on the golf course, having the first beer, having the second beer. And I probably had 4 or 5 that night. And I was expecting to kind of be out of my element. And
didn't happen that way?
It seemed more normal. Maybe it was the equivalent of 6 beers, but I didn't do anything outrageous.
You had it under control. How was your golf game? What'd you score? You remember?
No. I golf once a year.
Okay.
And so if I put any time into it, I think I would be good. I just don't.
That's one of those ones. That's one of those ones that appeals to me. I've never played. I've been on driving ranges and putt and that kind of stuff, and I'm like, man, I can crack this thing straight and pretty far every now and then. And then putting recently, I went to one of those Tiger Woods pop stroke courses. Have you seen any of those? So there's one in Orlando, and then I went to one in West Palm, and they're real greens. It's pretty challenging. It's putting only, but I was like, man, I'm doing all right in a large group setting. I hit a couple hole-in-ones, and people were like, you play? I'm like, never. I've never played. And I just like the idea of it. Getting outside, it's another way to hang out with people and do different things.
How often do you play, or have you played?
I've never played.
You've never played?
I've never played. Yeah.
Well, we should go golf.
Dude.
Two guys who don't golf, just out there having a great time.
Do you watch, there's a YouTube channel. It's a professional golfer, Bryson something, some with a D. I'm not sure what his last name is, but he does these series where he does like break 50. Trump was on there.
Really?
What's the John Daly was on there, the golfer. If you're
John Daly's just
him.
a character. I know him as the character, not as a golfer.
See, I didn't know of him until this episode. I had never heard of this guy. It's this barefoot, overweight guy that's openly drinking and smoking and beating. He beat Tiger Woods in an event.
Yep.
The dude is legend, man. The dude is legend.
Who is
golf
Kid Rock and him hang out real hard.
Really?
They're like
Kid
best
Rock and
buds.
John Daly?
Yeah. They're like best buds, and they go to like all the golf tournaments and then just get slammed. And then,
well, I've always heard of Arnold Palmer, the drink, and the guy, right? But a John Daly is an Arnold Palmer with vodka.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and Post Malone taught me that. I heard Post Malone talking about ordering a John Daly on Kill Tony. And I was like, what's a John Daly?
I think Kid Rock and him must have been on Rogan together, or they were on some podcast where it was outrageous.
Loose cannons.
Those would be, yeah.
Golf would be something, though, from a time commitment. How long does it take, to play 18 holes?
Well, so this is my observation of golf. Yeah. And I have no idea. All I know is everyone's always on your ass trying to get you to speed up.
Oh, okay. They're trying to, but they can't play
because
through
they can't play. Well, I don't know. I don't know how it all works. I just, But the thing I've realized about golf, I cannot play 18 holes well. And it's not physical stamina, but there's mental stamina.
Oh, yeah.
And now there are a lot of golfers out there who really love golf. I'm not a person who really loves golf.
You already said you play once a year. I got you.
I think the workout is really a mental workout.
Yeah.
And it's to stare at a boring ball for that long and be able to still swing perfectly is really difficult. It feels great when you hit it. And maybe I'm just not good enough to enjoy it. I love 9 holes. Because after my 9th hole, my skill just drops off. Because the mental stamina is gone. Like I can't focus on this thing anymore.
Interesting.
I'm dreaming about doing other stuff.
I get that. And that's why I wonder about the time commitment of it is, can you stay committed for 18 holes? The way Bryson does his YouTube channel is an interesting concept. It's like called, and I was talking to my buddy Tom about this, it's called Best Ball. Where like, let's say you and I went out and played. Are you familiar with Best Ball?
So everyone plays on whatever the best one is, so everyone goes over and drops the ball.
So let's say you and I are playing, we would both drive. Whichever we determine was the best drive, that would be our next shot. And we both get to take it. So then whatever determines the next shot, we both get to take. And then your combined score is what the score is. Sounds kind of interesting. It sounds like a way to maybe speed it up a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Because let's say I shank this thing, and instead of having to drop a new ball, however it works, I'm not a golfer, I don't know the lingo, but we would play your ball and then so on and so forth. Maybe seems like an interesting way to start, in my opinion.
Yeah, that seems like a fun game. And I'm thinking maybe the reason why it takes so long for me to golf is because I believe that if you end up in life and in golf in a shitty location in the trees, I'm not tossing another ball. I'm going in there because this is where I ended up. This is the game. This is the game of life. You can't go just
what
take
a purist. What a purist mentality.
Purist, except everyone else who's playing is like, why that guy in the trees?
What's funny about
but it's fun for me, kind of, I guess, to do that.
I get
it more exciting.
I get that idea, and that's funny about that. Again, that YouTube channel of Bryson, he hit one in like the cart path or in the concrete, and he's taken the shot from the concrete. So he's probably along that same mindset where purist at hearts, man. I wanted to go back to that fast for a second because I've thought about long-term fasting. I've done a lot in the years of like intermittent fasting, 12 hours, 16 hours, those kind of things. And Kelly Slater was really one that started talking talking about like 3-day, 5-day fast, and just sort of that cleanse of the body. You know, was that your goal? Or was it a necessity? Like you're traveling, or what led to the decision to actually do one that long?
I guess I do a lot of things that do nothing but train discipline, but I don't think it's even to train discipline, just to do something difficult that most people say you can't do. And I definitely get this from my father. I remember I was a kid, I come home from school and like, people can't live without water for 3 days. And then he says, watch this. And then goes 5 days without water. I mean,
Really?
he wasn't in great shape after 5 days,
Right.
but he didn't have food or water for no other reason to show me that you can do more than they tell you can do.
Wow.
So some of it's that, some of it's camaraderie. I think it's good for health in general.
Camaraderie because other people were doing it with you. You weren't doing it alone. Okay.
Yeah. And to get people to realize that they're capable of more than they think they are. Like if you go to the average person, most of them wouldn't agree that they go more than 24 hours without eating.
Oh, sure.
Or at least before this whole intermittent fasting thing came about, right? People were like, I couldn't go 5 hours without eating. I get so cranky. And it's like, you eventually, I don't know, you just get used to it. And it's hard, and life's hard, so it helps you put up with that. A little bit of Jocko Willings in there. I don't know, something like that.
The body is very adaptable, and I think to your point, a lot of people undersell that or think they're not capable of things, but that's interesting, man. The discipline side of it, I get that if your buddies are doing it together and, you know, who's going to break first and kind of making maybe a little competition out of it too. But I'm in this weight gain mode right now. I've been trying to get to the 200-pound mark. And
yes, sir.
It's been a little bit of a challenge, man. I'm not gonna lie. It's this. I don't like to eat just to eat. You know, I've been in that fasting mode for a while, and I felt like if I do just eat now and again lift and try to do all the things you should do, it would take so many calories for me to get to that.
What's the thing preventing you from eating to just eat? Is it a fear that you'll get used to it and addicted to it, or is it a fear that it's just not healthy, or an idea that it's just not healthy? Like what's the roadblock there? Because I've heard a lot of people say that.
It's a time thing. It's how frequently you have to do it, and dedicating time to trying to eat
That's
the
why
right
I loved
things.
intermittent fasting.
Oh
my God. I had so much more time in the day.
Light bulb. Yeah. You're not thinking about what am I going to cook? Where am I going to go? Those kind of things. That's what I really enjoyed about fasting too. But then, you know, when I was doing that a lot, I'm like 170 something pounds, and not that necessarily mattered.
Did you lose weight?
In intermittent fasting?
Yeah.
I didn't weigh myself as much then, so I don't really know that to be sure. I know I felt really good, and I definitely felt like when I was really consistent on it for years, that like mental clarity that they talk about, and I definitely felt like I was the leanest I've ever been, just from like a body mass standpoint for sure. And I felt good in all my activities, jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, surfing, like everything I did felt really good. And even working out
could give it. I'm trying to relate to this to a few different experiences I've had, and I guess I'm old enough now that I can't remember them all. But did you feel like you could give closer to 100% to everything you did? I'm wondering. There's a few times I've achieved some state. I don't know what you want to call it. I think me and my father call it Super Saiyan for no other reason, but we had another thing to
Dragon
call it.
Ball Z fans, or is that a Dragon Ball Z
I don't think he's
reference?
ever watched it, but it's definitely a
Super
Dragon Ball Z
Saiyan,
reference.
Okay.
But in anything I did, it would always be like 100%.
Okay.
And it wasn't like I'm like, oh, I got to go give it 100%. It was like I could, and it wasn't like a tank that was getting dry. I would never get like tired at all. I would never. I have a few examples of this. One time, it was my 5th year of college, and I was taking a number of classes. I had to take an extra semester because I didn't have like enough electives, so I had to take like walking class and weightlifting and interpreting spring landscapes, things like this. But they got a full tuition out of me. It was the greatest semester of my life, though. I had a lot of fun. But all of it, and jazz dance. So every day I'd dance for 2 hours. I'd go to weightlifting. I'd do some meditation, and then go look at spring landscapes. And I somehow I got a six-pack. I got ripped. And somehow achieved this state that I'm talking about, which I have achieved one other time in my life. But one example of what I mean by like you'd always give it 100 is we'd play like flag football or something. And, I was on the right side of the field. Some guy on the left side of the field gets a pass and he's running. And everyone else is like, oh, he got the touchdown. I could be over there and I just look and I'm like, I'll get him. And there's like no chance I'll get him. Yeah. But I had no problem just running the full length of the football field for no other reason but to try. Like, it wasn't like, should I? Like, I'll run out of gas. Yeah. It was like there was a never-ending tank underneath me. That was really lean too. Yeah. I'd say it probably got down to like 5% or 6% body fat.
Dang, man.
So I wanted to ask because I've always been trying to figure out what it is that turns that on. Yeah.
I think for me, I've always had that fortunate. I'm not sure if this is genetic or I think it's both. It's genetic, and then a lot of things I did younger. Always had really solid cardio. Like, some people would be faster than me in a short distance, but if we're going to do it 10 times, like, I'm going to get you by 6, or whatever. So I've always been really fortunate. And then I was running like sub 6-minute miles really early, and then I was almost able to break under 5 before I was 16. So I was I was booking, man, and mile and 2 mile were my thing, and on the track side. So I was kind of always fortunate to have that cardio lever, and I still feel really fortunate. Like, I could go for a ruck for 12 miles, 15 miles and feel really good about it. I've always had that. I don't know if fasting played a role negatively or positively towards that. I do think that, I think just lifting in general, I was fearful that maybe the power wouldn't be there, or maybe in striking the power wouldn't be there. But I never felt that. Like, it was almost the opposite more. I felt like I wasn't as slow. If that makes sense, when I wasn't eating heavy in the morning and then going to a workout or going to a class or something.
What were you eating during it?
I have primarily tried to get over the last few years just onto plants and animals. I think we've talked about it before, but Laird Hamilton made the most sense to me, when he mentioned that the only thing he eats, and tried to keep it simple, is plants and animals. If it's something that grew or something that was alive, like, that's a pretty good...
The outside of the grocery store, right?
Exactly. I was just telling someone that today, is if you go to the grocery store, vegetables, meat, out of there. If you start going through the middle section, that's funny, man. I think
the only thing I get in the middle is like mayonnaise.
Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah, condiments. Yeah, or things.
But even then, I try to say, vinegar. Vinegar is a good one. My wife's does amazing things with vinegar. She can clean anything. She can make meals with it. Like, vinegar is the most versatile thing in the entire world.
Really?
I don't know if you've.
No, I don't use vinegar for anything.
So baking soda and vinegar, the combination can, I don't know, turn things white, turn things other colors, take stains out of whatever. It can clean toilets. It can be turned into toothpaste. It's pretty remarkable.
Versatile substance.
It's pretty ridiculous.
Nice.
Like, we've opened the door crack into homesteading and things like that, and vinegar and baking soda. You can wash clothes with it. You can soften clothes with it.
Dang.
You can, I don't know. We should probably get her on here, and she could do the whole podcast.
Shout out plugs for vinegar and baking soda. I need to get some of them sponsors coming in.
Yeah.
I got a new product coming in, man. I'm anxious to try it. Have you ever heard of a company called Magic Mind?
No.
They've been doing a lot of advertisements on these kind of platforms, and what they want me to do is test it for 7 days and then just talk openly about how it makes you feel. It's supposed to be not a replacement for caffeine and that kind of stuff, but it's and I got to do a lot more research.
Is it a drink?
Before it's a drink. Yeah, it's sort of like and it's all mushroom based, and there's a lot of things
all the
in
nootropics.
All the nootropics, exactly. So I'm anxious to try it, man. The package should be coming soon, and then I got to put some thoughts behind it, but it's supposed to just speak about it naturally, which I think is a cool way to sort of advertise. If I don't like it, I don't like it. If I like it, cool. Like, I'm not committed to anything, on that side, but this kind of opening up some interesting worlds. So maybe we'll get baking soda.
I just try. If you get a sponsor from baking soda, I don't know who makes just I guess Arm & Hammer, right?
Probably one of those big brands.
That thing just never changed. They found this core product.
Rode it to the bank.
I got AG1 now. Yeah. I mean, Jesus, that is some pricey stuff.
It is. Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. I did it for probably maybe a year, maybe a year and a half.
What'd
and I
you
liked
notice?
it.
I'm on like day 7.
Nothing.
Yeah.
I didn't notice anything.
Really?
If I'm being, I felt like I should be getting something out of it, and then it kind of checks off those boxes of like, am I getting some of these nutrients that maybe I'm not in my food? But I didn't.
You didn't notice a big difference.
Yeah. I gave it a good run, man. Yeah, solid, at least 12 months probably.
Oh, nice. Yeah, the only thing I noticed is I just want to drink more of it. And I don't know if that's because, I'm not drinking alcohol. Yeah. So I guess it's something else to drink. Yeah. Or it's the idea that it's good for you. Sometimes, that really does play a role.
100%, man. It's the old placebo effect. Your mind is a very powerful thing. And if you think you're doing the right thing, and if that in an extent helps, then great. If you feel better and that's all that's
ride
really
that placebo train.
Dude, 100,
or wave.
Man. Whatever, man. Whatever.
The one thing that I have noticed, and I mess around a lot for those viewers, I mess around a lot with my health. I do all sorts of funny stuff. I'm like, this is supposed to be good for you. Let's take a whole bunch of it. See what happens. AG1 came with D3 and K2 supplement. Maybe for a year. I don't know. Anyway, I was looking up K2, like, what's everyone so up about K2 for? And the one thing I found is people have a reaction with their teeth where it removes the plaque off of your teeth if you're taking it. But it'll actually make your teeth grow enough that you'll lose your fillings.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
And so then I don't know if it's a cavity or I got something jammed in one of my teeth back there, and for like several weeks I'm like trying to pick it out. Imagine like a sunflower seed, like sometimes they get stuck in your teeth.
Yeah, sure.
It felt like that, and just the top was sticking up, and I couldn't get it out. It was frustrating.
That would be
finally get it out. I went to buy an instrument just to get this sucker out because I couldn't get to the dentist or anything for another month, and I'm just like, I gotta get this out. So I went and bought this thing, and then I got it out. I felt so relieved. And the next day, something else got in there. I'm like, so there's some sort of this little cavity and something, things are getting in there. So I'm like, I got this K2 thing. Let's try it. And God, I think it's only been 7 days, and my teeth just feel silky smooth, which is crazy.
That is crazy.
That's something that, like you said, you didn't notice anything with AG1,
right?
I noticed something.
Okay,
for sure.
Yeah.
Sugar sun is stuck in my tooth, but we'll do another podcast to see if it comes out in the month of K2. Yeah.
Nice.
That's one of those things. I'm somewhat similar to you. Whenever I take something, I want to see a difference. If I don't see a difference, it's not that I write it off.
Yeah.
Maybe it's helping me subtly.
Yeah.
But I want to feel it. Like if this thing is supposed to do something, I should feel something.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what I'm anxious for about sort of that magic mind approach. It's supposed to be like a productivity boost, and a lot of like guys in the tech world are taking it. They take it every day or whatever. They drink it every day, and I'm anxious to try. I like sort of that, more natural approach to things, plants that have been around and executed for a long time for different reasons, but we'll see. I'm anxious to try it, but I'm kind of, I go back and forth, man. Like, am I getting enough from my food that I eat? If I am just eating all these plants and animals, but then again, I've never like had my levels checked to even know, what's impacting me, what's not. That'd probably be the next step to do if we want to really check all the boxes. But I'm going to be 37 next month now, and I'm like getting to that point where I know your physical performance and your abilities eventually start to decline, no matter what. I think in today's day and age, you can extend.
Wait a second. Says who?
I think it's inevitable, man.
Yes. Well, when people tell me you can't do something,
I get it. And I have been that. How old are you? I forget. 32?
33? Yeah. 33 or 34.
Okay.
Something like that. 91.
I have 91. Oh, you're born in 91. Yeah. Okay. I was born in 87. So, but I think that it's natural to think, and I have definitely thought like maybe that's not going to be me, or I got the right sauce because I'm putting all this work in. But I just think it's inevitable, man. The more, older guys you're around, it happens eventually. And some people,
here's a question
different.
for you. Yeah. And this is a theory out there. Maybe you've never thought about this, but do you think old age is a disease?
I think
David Sinclair says that.
Yeah,
I think he says that. But
I think it can be cured, and I think a 70-year-old man of today is very different than a 70-year-old man of 20 years ago, right? So I do think there are some curable aspects to if it is a disease, right? And one that jumps to mind is testosterone for men. Eventually, your endocrine system, no matter what your genetics are, will eventually stop producing that. So a lot of guys, when they get into their 50s or 60s, or some people even younger, right, start getting on testosterone. And more people
that's dangerous to do when you're younger.
100%. And some guys do that. Jiu-jitsu is a big world where a lot of people do that early, and then your endocrine system is fucked. You got to take, injections for forever, right?
Yeah, what was it? I was having a conversation with somebody about the end of the world, something that I guess I generally do. But we were talking about if we went to war with Russia or something, and then, the grid goes down, what else would go down? And then we're like, we got some pretty good men out there, we got some pretty well capable men. Sure. It's like, the second their testosterone shipment doesn't come in, they're all going to shrink and grow tits. Like all of our world leaders here, like any of our presidents or any of those, they're all taking testosterone. The second that stops coming in.
And it all probably comes from China. So if China stops the testosterone production, all of our good men that we're relying on are fucked. Is this what we're saying?
Yeah. We'll just be like 96% women.
Hey, maybe who knows? Maybe that'll work out better in the long run. Do you really think about the end of the world a lot, or think in a serious manner? Or?
God, how serious? I don't know how serious. Yeah. Maybe it's just a thought experiment. I mean, we were talking last time about aliens and all sorts of stuff, tripping and seeing God, and what does any of it all mean? Yeah. Do I feel like I'm ever going to come to an answer? Probably not. But it's fun to think about. Like
that's
it's a
part
thought
of the
experiment. Maybe it's. Maybe your brain's kind of like a muscle, right? So I like to juggle tough problems and think through the details, at least to find something novel. Like most people think by the end of the world, they don't think, oh, where's our testosterone supply coming from? But I'm like, and then you just play that, and it kind of becomes funny.
It's pretty funny, man. That could be a joke. That could be a setup, punchline. You could find something there for sure that it would be hilarious to say on a stage somewhere. 100%. Man, that'd be pretty funny. I think about it a little bit. I think there's something in humans where we naturally think about the end. One thing, no matter if you figure it out and you biohack your way and you live to your 300, eventually this goes out. Everybody dies, right? I mean, to steal a few quotes that go around, but everybody dies. And I'm more like we talked about last time, like I don't know what happens. It's interesting to think about. People have all kinds of theories about what may happen, what may not happen, but I think about it sometimes, like what could it be, what could lead to it. And Trump on Rogan was the one that the biggest threat to probably all of us is nuclear war. There's freaking 9 countries
it scares the crap out of me how ill prepared the average human being is. Like not ill prepared
for a nuclear war.
What do you got?
What do you got? A bunker on the island? Like, what do you got? A bunker over there?
If you bring up nuclear war, they haven't even thought about it. Like it hasn't even been. They might have even seen a headline, but they don't even know where to begin to think.
Yeah, or even think that it's something that could be capable.
Yeah, it's like
America's the only ones that used them. 9 countries have them now, which is interesting. And
the Israel-Iran thing is very interesting because Iran, for the longest time, has been on the verge of getting one.
Right.
But it seems to me, just kind of smelling the air, listening to the ground or whatever that proverb is, that they're pretty darn close. And so, do you follow any of the stuff happening over there?
At a surface level.
Okay, you're probably where I am. But then I spend my free time driving just thinking about this stuff. So we've always been told that Iran's about to have a nuclear weapon. That's why we got to do blah, 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 blah. And it's been that way for a long time. I think ever since we were kids. But recently, the Israel thing has stoked a little harder, and now they're pushing military pressure now into Iran. I don't know to what degree. I haven't looked too deeply, but why now? Well, maybe we found out Iran is really close. And so, would the U.S. ever stoke another country to go in and fight a war?
Yeah.
We would?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure we've done that
specialists
a few times, allegedly. But
so I wondered if the reason that all is happening is because we are actually there now.
When I think about those areas of the world, and this is a very fortunate American way to think about it, those issues have been going on over there long before America was a country, right? First and foremost, long before I was ever alive, right? And a lot of it, from my understanding, is land-related, political, or religious-related. And I don't know how that gets solved for. I don't think there is an answer. Do you want a country that is sort of, I don't know what the right way to describe them is, from like what some people would maybe describe as like radically religious? Do you want them to have the capability of annihilating their enemies with nuclear weapons? No. But what is America's role in that? I have always struggled with, should we have any impact or influence in things outside of our own country? Why are we the policers of the world in that way, if you will?
Well, and the argument of that when we were kids, whenever I press that issue, is always to go out there to have the war off of our soil, because we never want to have war on our soil ever again. And there's something to be said about that. There's something true in that, right? If we prevent Iran from having nukes, then we won't have a nuclear war with Iran. There's 7 ways to Sunday to slice whether that's right or not.
Right.
But that's, I think, the basis of where that comes from. And in a very selfish way, I mean, when it comes to nukes, that kind of sounds good to me.
Yeah.
But also, I don't want... One of the big things Bobby Kennedy was kind of running on about was when a foreign nation... by the way, his uncle, President Kennedy... I think he has the most schools and monuments out of any president at all around the entire world, maybe of any world leader. That might be tough to think about with some fascist countries.
Sure.
But
where they have to worship them and cry when they die. You got to have a statue in your house.
So maybe they
if you're in North Korea.
There's more schools in Africa named after
by
Kennedy.
Choice.
All by choice. And so his thing was, Bobby Kennedy's thing was that when he went to a foreign country and asked people about America, he didn't want them to think about a Marine. He wanted to think about a Corps of Army engineer person or something like that.
Okay.
Right, somebody who's out there to help as opposed to somebody out there to hurt. I think in the last, probably since his assassination, we've done a lot of going out there and meddling. Right. To our point here, like, would we go stoke a war somewhere? Without a doubt, we are. We do that all the time.
100%.
But I'm like, God, that's a bad look. And so I'd like to prevent Iran from having nukes. Without us meddling in elections and making their people hate us. Right. So
the fear for me has always been the term military-industrial complex. The fact that serious amounts of money in American companies and in American interests is made in wartime efforts, in manufacturing. You talk about like the war in Ukraine and all that money that goes over there that actually ends up coming back to American companies because we're producing all these things. It's just, I am uneducated in terms of what the actual agendas are. What was the agenda of Vietnam? What was the agenda of the big war in our lifetime, Iraq and Afghanistan, man? This whole push for weapons of mass destruction that was never found. The way we left there was one of the saddest things I have ever seen on television.
Oh my God.
People falling from our jets, begging us not to leave. And then we left all of our gear over there. There are people in this country that can't eat, dude. And we left all that money, all that stuff over there, dude. It's freaking crazy. That's crazy.
I was listening to some, I don't know who it was, I feel like it was a general, but not one of the political generals on a podcast. No. It was the CEO of Blackwater. So they do, they're merchant kind of Marine kind of guys, right? Like you can pay them and they'll give you an army sort of a thing. Special force level, whatever. But he
he was saying that the general said, "Oh, it's just a money thing. It'd be cheaper to leave them all." Yeah, but what about 10 years from now?
Yeah.
I mean, what about the Taliban is flying Black Hawks around?
Yeah.
What about, and then the other thing he said was, we have all these, we sided with a lot of people in Afghanistan who decided to help
allies,
us, right? They wanted democracy, or they bought into the idea of that. And the worst thing is they trusted us. And that pains me to say that that's the worst thing. It's the worst thing because we have a horrible track record. And then what did we do? We had files with all of our informants, all of our cooperators, their families' addresses.
We left all that?
We didn't even cross it out. We didn't even take a freaking black marker and cross it over.
Damn.
We left it all there. They were ordered to leave it all there.
Wow.
Now tell me.
What the fuck, man?
And those are people, I care about my neighbor tremendously.
Yeah.
I've put a rebranding of focus kind of throughout this election that national politics is important, don't get me wrong. But what's more important is your immediate neighbor.
Yeah.
It's your family.
Yeah.
It's your friends. It's the people you interact with every day. It's the people you rely on.
Yeah.
They're the most important. So yes, national politics is very important. But, and I think maybe you probably skewed my view to start thinking about this a little bit more.
Okay.
Because I respected you, and last time on the podcast, you said you didn't follow politics. I'm like, I madly respect that.
Yeah.
And you said it was a bandwidth issue, right?
It's a bandwidth issue, and it's also, I've been talking about this a lot recently, and again, it's an oddly American right to even think this way. I don't think it matters. And if you look at just the issues in our country that people mostly are worried about, inflation, nuclear war, you could throw that one out there, but just stick with inflation for a second, right? I was messing with ChatGPT the other day. Him and I are buddies now. Jordan Peterson said it the best, and I've said this on here before too. It takes the place of 10 research assistants, and it really does. Yeah. The speed at which it can collect things from all websites is very useful if you're trying to look something up. But I was asking it, what were the first successful political ads televised? Because it's a big season. There was a lot of political ads, and I wanted to know. And one of the first ones were in the 50s. Eisenhower was known to ran the first ones, black and white. This lady gets up there as an ad called Eisenhower Answers America, 1952. She gets up and goes, "Mr. Eisenhower, you know everything is getting so expensive. What are you going to do to make sure Americans can still afford to live and be an American?" or something like that. This was when gas prices were 27 cents a gallon. People didn't have cell phone bills. You didn't have high insurance rates. You didn't have any of this. So in my lifetime, red, blue, doesn't matter who's been in there, nothing has changed on one of the major subjects that most political candidates run on. So I have this theory of it's a bandwidth, inflation. I also have a theory that it doesn't matter. It really doesn't. In my life, I have never been
the amount of effort versus the amount of reward.
Yeah.
And so I don't agree with you 100% because I think it matters. The nuclear war example might be a great example.
In 1952 or 1962, sorry, in the 1960s, there was a very popular political ad run on TV called Daisy. Have you ever heard it? And if internet was here, I'd pull it up for you. It's black and white, and it's a girl picking a flower. 1, 2, 3, and then it cuts to like a scientist. 1, 2, and then a nuke drops on the girl in the 60s. Big nuke blows up. In the 60s, there was only 4 countries with nuclear war. Here we are today in 2024 with 9.
Well, they were pretty damn close to nuclear war, and you could argue that it was a president that helped ensure that wouldn't happen.
And what happened to him?
Yes, but we're not blown up.
We're not blown up, but the guy that those ideas, if you're referencing Kennedy,
I am.
Allegedly, a magic bullet took him out.
Well, yes. After at least the Cold War kind of
died off a little bit.
To a season, you could blame him for that. He did some remarkable things with having a direct line where he bypassed his military-industrial complex, his military advisors, while Soviet leader bypassed his military advisors, and they would just talk to each other directly because they didn't trust their military advisors. Would that have happened with anybody else? And so in those cases, that's where I think, God damn, does it matter? Now, it wasn't a great ending for him,
right? Or a lot of his family, for that matter.
Yeah. But we're still here.
Yeah.
Maybe because of that.
Could be.
Right?
Yeah.
And so, he didn't get along with many of his military advisors for all sorts of things.
Yeah. But I don't think the fear...
And tried to get us out of Vietnam. And so when you talk about the person, and I'd say that's why he got shot.
Yeah.
He got assassinated, I think, 1 month after he put the executive order to pull everyone out of Vietnam.
Right, which the CIA wouldn't have liked, allegedly.
No, a lot of people are making money. A lot of people believe probably that there was a good cause there, and they were doing the best good in the world to get rid of him. But imagine if he was able to succeed there. That really matters. That matters for all those people who died there. Or wouldn't have died there. I mean, those grand scheme things, I think, is maybe the most important piece, and the reason why I think it matters. Does it mess with inflation? It's like, well, hell, I don't know. Probably not. I mean, inflation just always goes up.
I think that's something that's
if you get a leader that eliminates the Fed or does any drastic thing, and there's some chance that happens. Is it going to be easy? No. Will they get shot? Double-digit % chance.
Sure.
Right? But could it happen?
No.
Sure.
But there's over double the amount of countries today with nuclear capabilities than there was when Kennedy was the president. So I agree, maybe in that instant, it definitely had an impact at that current moment. But in the grand scheme, especially in my lifetime, it has not. There has not been one.
Only because we're still here. Because
of course, because of. But I agree with you that in that circumstance, for sure, his. And again, it didn't work out well for him.
No,
but I do think
he made a sacrifice.
He made a sacrifice, but I'm not as educated in a lot of. What did he win the popular vote? Those kind of things. And that's the other one that has been interesting to me in my life is that a lot of presidents don't win that have the most votes. It has to do with the swing states and the electoral votes. And Trump was the prime example in 2016. Hillary had the most votes, but he won the college, right? And somebody said some stat the other day about how many people, how many presidents have actually won that didn't have the majority of the votes, which is interesting in itself. So it kind of matters where you live, how many electoral college votes your specific state has based off of the population. So I don't know. I hope, and this season, my change towards politics was almost there. I was almost compelled to maybe actually vote for the first time in my life, but I did not. And
what was the biggest compelling piece, and then why did you choose not to?
Probably the biggest compelling piece was the amount of people that switched and started to endorse Trump was for sure interesting to see. Elon coming out, Rogan coming out, people.
A lot of Democrats
changing their tune. And I just thought it was very strange how there was no primary to see who the next Democrat would be. It just seemed very, very odd there. Like this lady that was supposedly unpopular as a vice president is now all of a sudden going to be the one to fix everything. And someone made a great point the other day on the side of like a vice president name a vice president who's done something in their term. I don't know any. I can't think of any.
I think most people believe that the vice presidential position has no power. It's just a stepping stone to the presidency.
It may be someday.
So a lot of people just don't like being VP. I remember Bobby said something like, if Trump asked me to be VP, I would say no. He's like, I don't want to be vice president. You can't do anything.
He was very compelling to me, Bobby Kennedy. I'm like, man, this dude is making a lot of sense. And I think his family's track record, I always appreciated what I read and understood of Kennedy, right? President Kennedy. But he was very interesting. And then his health stuff, his track record as an environmental lawyer, and the things he was openly speaking about at that time, fresh out of COVID, was very interesting to hear his perspective. And the fact that no one was rebutting, like no one was suing him, like this book, The Real Anthony Fauci, like, and no one came out and like tried.
If you read that, it almost reads like a thing of fiction just because of how crazy it is. But he has cited everything so well in that book that Anthony Fauci, I mean, it's defamatory beyond belief. Except apparently it's true. It's so well cited. Anthony Fauci has not opened a single lawsuit against him.
I mean, to me, that would probably be what would come out, unless I don't know, but I'm very happy that this is over. You know, there's this breath of fresh air today, and I wanted to see how you
I'm
felt.
still holding my breath. I think.
So really?
Yeah. I did hear Kamala Harris's resignation speech, and there was actually maybe, and I don't mean this like, oh, I'm a big Trump supporter, but it was maybe one of her better speeches.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, because
I thought she did well in the debates. I thought she
did really well. Yeah. Way better than I expected. That's right. And then you got to make sure. I have to make sure I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid too much to be blinded and think that she can't talk or anything like that. But she did really well in the debates, in my opinion.
Maybe she had an earpiece in that was helping her. Allegedly.
Way better than Trump. And
I've never been I'm not a Trump supporter. I think a lot of people, hate him for different reasons. A lot of people have a lot of different ideas. My thing has always been...
He's a polarizing figure.
My thing has always been, I don't know these people. All you know is how they come across and how they're out there and what is being said about them. And a lot of
people don't even know how they come across. They only hear what is said about them.
The sound bites,
They only hear what's being said about
100%.
them. God,
but that's where long form, for me, I think long form changed this election. Long form discussion, long form interview. The fact that Trump did Rogan, he did Theo Vaughn.
His whole team, everybody
JD
around
Vance,
him has done all of them.
Dude,
anybody on the Republican side has done.
Listened to the JD Vance conversation on 2 podcasts. I'm like, this seems like a logical dude. Like he seems like he thinks about things logically. What I really wanted was hear those same people interview Kamala. I would have loved it to have heard that. I would have loved to actually hear them in that environment, in that
figure out who she is.
But you never got that.
And by the way, I think the Trump interview on Rogan wasn't a great look on Trump.
Really?
Per se.
Oh.
No. I think there were for me it wasn't a good look.
Yeah.
And I was a big Bobby Kennedy supporter.
Right.
I have an interesting thought, and I think it's probably true. So he and Bobby Kennedy endorsed Trump. Trump had some phone call with Bobby Kennedy saying, "Hey, dude, we want you on board. The health thing that you're doing is really important." Bobby Kennedy's always been an environmental guy, so I'm like, "Wow, that's so cool." And Bobby Kennedy said, "Well, environment has to do with health, so I'm going to just clean it all up." And I love the environment. I'm an avid fisherman. I love getting out there. That's kind of where I find God in a way. So I was super excited about that. And then Trump never said anything like, "No, you can't do the environment." Then one day, his tune switched, where the second anybody said Bobby Kennedy, it was like, I saw a few interviews where he was like trying to say like, gotta keep him away from the oil.
The liquid gold, as call it.
Keep Bobby away from that.
Liquid gold.
But it switched all at once.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking about this, another one of these thought experiments, trying to figure out what in the hell is going on. Why did he change his tune so suddenly? And then I found a soundbite of him telling the oil companies, for $1 billion, I'll say whatever you want me to say. And this was a long time ago. And then I realized, well, with Bobby Kennedy promised a position next to him, that $1 billion price tag probably just went up. And so he got paid fat from oil and gas, because it's $1 billion to have him say whatever you want him to say. No. There's no real threat that he's going to shut down oil and gas.
Right.
But now you have a real threat there. And so the gas companies would love him to switch his tune. And then he switched his tune
interesting
instantly.
But on the Democrat side, they definitely are pushing, and seems like they've been pushing more electric vehicles, getting away from oil and gas. So you kind of see why that industry would lean more towards people that would. But this is also my point towards this. The amount of money involved in politics in America in general. It costs something like $200 million to even be considered to run for president.
I think Biden's purse was something between $3 and $5 billion.
That is ridiculous. To sit and wrap your head around that. Imagine the freaking founding fathers sitting around and thinking that in however many years from now, this is how much this is going to cost. Like, bro, there's no way they had that amount of foresight. And to me, that is the biggest problem, is the amount of money involved in these kind of things.
I think they would have had the foresight.
You think so? of money like that?
Sure, they weren't new to government. Instead of a B, you would call it $1 million, but for sure, I think they did.
I don't know.
I'll have to think on that because, sure, in Britain, you don't think money controlled politics?
Oh, I think it's controlled everywhere. I think,
So that wasn't new to them.
But this is back to my problem with money. I think money is the problem.
So here was the question I was going to ask you, and it comes down to the military-industrial complex and all of that. A lot of people will claim in managerial or wherever else, look for where the incentives are. If the incentives are to go have more wars, if the incentives is money, and say for any corporation, the incentives are money. Now, there's no moral component to a corporation. They're sworn to better their shareholder value, right?
Yes.
So money is the incentive.
Yes.
If an incentive, or can you figure out someone's actions 100% based on the incentive structure? So then that's the military-industrial complex.
Yeah.
They're corporations. They're incentivized for money. More wars make more money.
Right.
So consciously or unconsciously, not to say that they're evil up there on the top or anything, but it'll steer them toward making decisions to have more wars or supporting the ideas that tell a congressman or a CIA person or whoever it is, don't worry, if you go to war, we have your back.
Definitely.
But that statement alone has caused more wars.
Definitely.
Right? And so do you believe that you can fully capture someone's actions or the direction that they're going based on the incentive structure?
Some people, yes. I think it is logical to think that if there are incentives to be made, and you're right, companies do have to, they have a obligation to their shareholders to continuously make more money, whatever that company is. But it does seem to benefit certain individuals if they are incentivized to go to war, or even in the pharmaceutical industry is very similar, in terms of what they're incentivized to do or not to. But yeah, I think so. I don't think I would say 100%, but I think it's, if you were to bet, I think you could lean more towards if they're incentivized to do something, whether it's war, whether it's anything along that nature. Yes, most people you could probably tell.
Yeah, and I was pushed back on that whenever I heard that from a managerial structure standpoint, and on the basis that it's just not that simple. I don't think human beings are that simple where you can say,
I don't think it's a blanket statement.
If you get more bonuses, will he just for this? Will he go do more of this? Like most people, and the reason I don't agree 100% is because there are more incentives than what's just on paper. And I just was listening to a podcast about a CIA kind of secret covert agency historian who was talking about Soviets and CIA and all of this. And in their playbook, I think the Soviets had like 5 pillars of how to sway somebody. And they wouldn't just use 1 or 2 or 3. It'd be some recipe of all of these, right?
Sounds very Soviet.
Yeah. And then there was, but the incentives, I think, are probably a better example of what I would call an incentive structure for a human being to go make a decision. And I will not get this right, but I'll name a few of them to kind of get the point across. There's like ideology. There's monetary reward. Sure. There's threat, whether it be threat of outcasting you from whatever group you're in, or threat of hurting people you love, whatever that is. And then the last one, which I thought was really interesting, is ego. The world's best spy organization wants you to come do this job. And I could totally get it.
Yeah.
If the world's leading spy organization came and tapped you on the back, and maybe you're too old now, but be a young guy, like, hey man, we've got a job and we need you. It's like, okay, that's an incentive. That's incentive. Maybe that's why Jeff Bezos has Blue Origin, right?
Yeah.
To compete against SpaceX.
Sure.
A dick measuring contest. There's something very real of an incentive there that isn't baked into some of these corporate sales, whatever.
Yeah, well, I think ego is something that's kept us alive. Yeah. It's kept us making great things. It's definitely could be a positive, but it also could be a negative if you're led by that solely. You know, when you think about this in martial arts, a lot of martial artists try to, I think, strip some of that ego away, you know, and be more vulnerable and be comfortable, especially in different, you know, martial arts, I suppose is what I'm trying to relate this to. But I don't know. I think for me, I don't know if I would have had that drive. No. Like if some organization like that taps you on the
CIA
shoulder.
taps you on the shoulder tomorrow and says, hey, Steve, we can't tell you what it's about, but we're the CIA. Yeah. Just come interview. You don't have to take the job. We'll fly up to DC.
I knew you were a CIA plant, dude. I knew it. I fucking knew it, man.
But it'll be a cool experience. You don't have to take the job. You know, it'd be like dark lit. You can have the whole experience. Like, just come up. We'll pay for lunch, dinner, and your stay, and we'll send your family to wherever you want.
I don't think so, man.
You would say no?
I think so.
Wow.
Yeah.
Would that have always been the case?
Probably.
Wow.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
I have had a negative feel towards those environments, those type of people. I just, you know, I much prefer transparency, and the CIA is the opposite of transparency. I think back to relate it to a business for a second is that's how I operate in my life. Whether I'm right, wrong, or indifferent, what I am telling you is what I really think, what I really feel. Many years of my life, I will look you in the eye and tell you what I think you want to hear. But the way I have tried to evolve from that, if you will, over the last, you know, decade plus is to just try to be and think and act how I feel. And the CIA is the opposite of transparency. So that's probably how I would lean. And that was always my problem with just the idea of going in the military in general is I don't want to follow someone else's orders.
When did you realize that though? So I think I've come to that, and I had a few friends who were like, they almost abandoned the sheer idea of patriotism because of it. And I think that there's a benefit of patriotism. I think it's in us, it's ingrained in us for a good reason. Yeah. But also, Jesus, can it be hijacked? And the older I get, the more I realize that. Yeah. But how young were like you played Army Men as a kid? Or you were just like, oh, don't want to be a slave to the man.
But like, yeah, I just never liked the idea of being told what to do, I think is probably what it comes down to. And some of my friends were in Iraq and Afghanistan and they had to, you know, fly here and do this and go here and do that. And I never liked, to me, that wasn't freedom. And to me, that's the whole idea of America. And again, I'm very fortunate to have even this concept because other people are out there doing some of those things that have led to this freedom, or the fact that we even left England in the first place to come do this experiment 250 years ago. Very nuts. Think about getting on a freaking boat, sailing somewhere you've never been, maybe bringing your family. Like, no way. You don't even have a picture.
Here's another aspect of that too. A brother-in-law of mine just got me a book called America's First Civil War. It was about the Revolutionary War.
Okay.
Because when you think about it, at least taught in school, you're like, yeah, we hate the British. Get out of here. We don't want to pay 2 cents in taxes extra. But did everyone say that?
Probably not.
Apparently it was like split 50-50. And there were a lot of people fighting each other
that wanted
domestically who were like, no, dude, it's like, stop causing so much trouble. We're British.
But this is another point that thought that I have. And again, I don't think we 100% know what happened, what went down, even to the comment you just made. What we know from history is what was written down. It was
by the winners.
Probably by the winners. One of the oldest phrases that you can think about, like that people would probably say, is like, you're going to be stripped from the history books. You know, you think of like Roman times or even, you know, Greek times. We're going to erase you from the history books. Imagine how much of that actually went down.
Oh my God.
Think of how much we've learned just after the internet has come out on what is not true versus what is true. So I don't think.
Have we really learned?
but my point is, I don't know.
Yeah.
I have no idea what happened.
There's always two sides to a quarter. There's There was some short video that I just sent my family, and I truly believe, this election feels like it was the end of the world. Both sides saying it's the end of the world, blah, 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 blah.
So crazy.
We're still here. I think, and I was talking about this before, I think your community, your friends, your family, the people you rely on are the most important.
100%.
And if whatever you're in national politics, I believe is important, and a lot of people think it is, but if it's causing harm to your relationship with your friends, your family, and your community, then it's doing more harm than good. But even if you win.
But that does happen. How many people
all the
can't
time
talk to their friends anymore because they're with her or they're with him, or even your family for that matter sometimes. And that's also my problem with it. I think people have this idea.
But I think that's your responsibility as a citizen to say, hey, I'm tarnishing what's the most valuable thing, because I'm being told that this is more valuable. Just don't take that pill. That's a lie. So it's your responsibility not to just listen to what you're thrown at you, right? And that's something, God damn, it's thrown at a lot of people, and a lot of people just scoop it right up.
Yeah. But so many people, I think, are looking for their savior. Like, this is going to be the person that fixes things for me, whether it's in my life or whatever. I saw this dude holding up a sign somewhere that said, it was like he had a Trump mask on, he was holding a sign, he's like, don't worry, I'm coming, I'm going to fix everything. It's just like, I think people in religion is kind of like this for me too, is like they're looking for something to latch on because things don't make sense, and this makes sense to me to latch onto at the moment. I think this political season has been that for a lot of people. Like, these are going to be the ones that fix it for me. Kamala's going to come in and I'm going to have more money and I'm going to have this and I'm going to have that, where I think you can barely control yourself, but you should probably people have a hard time looking in the mirror, and being I'm the reason why my life is this way, or I'm the reason why this is. No one that has been in there in my life has helped me or hurt me for that matter. And again, that's a right that I have because I was born here. If I was born somewhere else, that's the people that have a really good counter argument to this thought that it doesn't matter. It matters if you're trying to immigrate to this country. Who's in there, who's not in there, that has mattered historically. But something I wanted to ask you on this note, what percentage of people, this was another ChatGPT conversation I had, what percentage of people, of Americans, do you think didn't vote at all in the last 10 election cycles? What do you think what percentage of people don't even play in the game? In the last 10, so obviously 4 years apiece.
I think it's something like 60 to 70% is what I believe was the thing.
That voted?
That didn't vote. I believe it was something like that, but I don't believe all the numbers, sadly. But I think it was
that's the other side.
The last election, apparently more people came out for Biden than have ever voted in all of the history of the world, or in this country. And then Trump had the most votes as well, and it's like... maybe, I don't know. There's more people now. I don't know. What's the percentage?
It's 44%. That's 150 million Americans don't vote at all in the last 10 election cycles. And to your point, it is rising
for all 10, or
average.
That's the average.
That's the average. Some of it up until 2020 with Biden, it was 60-something%. They think this one's going to be very similar. So meaning 40% people didn't even vote in this most recent election.
And not voting is still a vote, right? Like,
what do you mean?
Not voting is still showing people that you're not content. If you have two people up there and you despise both of them, don't get bullied into wearing the yoke of the future of the United States because you're told if you don't go vote, then America's going to fail and it's your fault.
But that
don't buy that shit,
is the narrative.
Now you're because then let's pretend you do vote and somebody who you don't like wins and you didn't like him, but you voted for him because you got bullied into it because the world's going to come to an end if you didn't. What if he goes and does something stupid? Now you have to wear that on your shoulders, and you got bullied into it. Like, don't put the media in the whole election cycle. They use this whole thing, and this is one of the biggest switches in my life of a viewpoint. You're always raised like you have the right to vote, and people died for it, so you're obligated to go.
Someone literally just said that to me.
It's like, okay. just because you have the right to bear arms doesn't mean you're obligated to bear arms.
Right.
Just because you have the right to free speech doesn't mean you should go say whatever all the time.
Right.
Right.
I'm talking a lot of shit these days, Mike. I don't know if you noticed.
It's a right, which means you can choose not to use it whenever you freaking feel like
That's
it.
the idea of
the people died not so you'd be forced and bullied into voting.
Correct. Yeah.
You know, if you have two people up there and both of them suck, don't vote for either one of them.
Yeah.
And then if you have a bunch of justices on your card and you're like, oh, shoot, I don't know any of this stuff. Well, his name looks cool. Don't do that either, man, because you don't know what's going on. Yeah. If you're informed on a thing, this is just the way I try to operate. I left a lot of blanks. I've been texting a lot of people, and I text them this whole election cycle. It's okay to leave a blank.
See, I asked someone, can you even leave a blank? Because I've never been. I don't know. Yeah. So it is possible to leave something blank if you're not educated on it.
Is it possible to leave something blank? For sure.
Okay.
Are they throwing my card out every time? I don't think so. But I've never asked.
Okay. Interesting.
But goddamn, I hope they don't make you fill them. That's just ridiculous.
I didn't know if you must pick a selection.
No. Yeah. It's just a Scantron card, and then they have all this legislation like amendments, like Florida amendments. We had a bunch of them, and it's dirty.
No,
it's dirty.
Yeah.
There's this one passed, but when I realized any amendment, and luckily in Florida law, in order to get an amendment on the ballot, they have to publish a full transcript of where the funding of that amendment is coming from.
Okay.
Which, lovely. Yeah. At least it gives you some insight to who's writing this.
But why 60-40? Why do amendments have to be 60%, 40%? Why? I haven't looked up yet. I'm curious. Like,
I don't know the official answer.
The president can be 52. Well, no, it can't be. It depends on the electorals. So in a state, in a specific
you're changing the Constitution.
Okay.
So you think of a Constitution as a pretty firm document.
Right. So
you don't want to just willy-nilly be changing.
They want more than majority vote?
Yeah, that's what I suspect.
What it is.
And if you looked at the amendments, I think all of them would have passed if it was 50-50.
100%.
Except one.
Amendment 3 was the only one I was really paying attention to because I do
Which one was that? Was that?
Marijuana. Yeah. I do think that it's time, in certain environments in the comfort of your own home for that to be something that is allowed without being
What did you think Amendment 3 was?
From what I understand, and again, this is where the educated versus uneducated side of it, and a lot of people are. To me, it was for recreational marijuana in the state of Florida, which a lot of states have passed the idea of recreational marijuana. It was a huge topic even on the national scene, both Trump and Kamala coming out talking about decriminalizing and what they think about it. But from what I understand, it was passing the recreational use of medical marijuana, or of marijuana, not medical. We already have medical.
Yeah. And in that bill, it also corners the funder of that bill was the biggest marijuana producer out of Canada and maybe the Western Hemisphere.
Okay.
The biggest company out there. It also corners the market for them. So, and I might be wrong in some of this here. It's really legally worded. No. And I also am super skeptical of any amendment that's a bunch of pages long.
Sure.
But it wipes liability off of any person who prescribes marijuana.
Yeah.
Completely makes them liability free.
But that is the same for medicine in general. Pfizer is not
nothing in the Constitution piece. Pfizer is responsible. The only liability waiver that I'm aware of from a drug company is on vaccines. But they've had multi-billion-dollar lawsuits.
Definitely. Yeah.
For tons of things.
Yeah. So maybe I'm thinking vaccines. Yeah. Definitely, they've been stripped of that liability.
So there's this liability component. But if you actually look it up, the amendment itself was so long that they couldn't even fit it on the ballot. But what's the title? It's something like legalize recreational weed for responsible adults.
Right. Yeah.
Everyone agrees. Well, a lot of people agree with that.
Yeah.
But that's not all it says. And so the other one that passed, which again I don't like this one, and this one I'm at least more educated on. I've done some deep digging, and it's way less wordy, which makes you be able to understand it a little bit better. The Right to Hunt and Fish. What a great freaking title.
Didn't even know that was on the ballot.
Yeah, Amendment 2.
Okay.
The Right to Hunt and Fish.
Yeah.
Well, how would you vote?
That's the title? The Right to Hunt and Fish?
The Right to Hunt and Fish.
Well, I sure hope that doesn't go away. Yeah,
well,
the right
no
to
one's
hunt
saying
and fish.
it's going away either,
Yeah.
right?
But I'm voting yes or no on the right to hunt and fish.
You're voting yes or no to add the Right to Hunt and Fish amendment to the Constitution of Florida.
I didn't know I didn't have that right already. I have been executing that right.
Well, it's beautiful as it's already in the Constitution, is the right to hunt and fish.
Yeah.
So
see, this is the bandwidth thing I was telling you about. Is do not have the bandwidth.
Well, this one passed, and I think it shouldn't have passed.
So it had over 60.
Yeah, it was the only one that passed. Let me find the exact wording because I want to kind of prove a point here.
Yeah. Your point is the same one I've made multiple times, is you don't know what's all in these things other than the headlines that you read, but it's also why I don't play in the game. But go ahead. Did you get it?
Nor should you.
Yeah.
Because if any of these amendments, it takes millions and millions and millions of dollars to get these amendments.
Oh, sure.
Maybe 1 or 2 million, but still millions.
Yeah. Amendment 3, the couple times it's been on, there has been serious amounts of millions of dollars trying to get recreational marijuana in Florida to go through. But go ahead, sorry.
And they poll the wording of it to see how many people they can convince.
See, this
right? So it's not this clear. It's not some guys let's all I smoke weed anyway. Let's all no. There's money behind all of this.
Correct.
And the way they go about wording it, in my opinion, is deceitful.
Yeah.
They're not trying to show you what it is.
Yeah.
And say Amendment 3 is incredibly long with a lot of legal terms that I didn't understand a lot of it. The right to hunt and fish, I at least kind of figured it out. And this is how I did it. Right to hunt, this is what it says. Amendment 2, the right to hunt, to fish and hunt. Proposing an amendment to the state constitution to preserve forever fishing and hunting, including by the use of traditional methods as a public right and preferred means of responsibly managing and controlling fish and wildlife. Specifies that the amendments do not limit the authority granted to the Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission under Section Article 4 of the state constitution. Sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Forever. I love fishing. Yeah. I think we should have the right to fish.
I agree.
The right to fish is already in the fucking Constitution.
Yeah. So what are they amending?
So then I'm like, okay, well,
what's the amendment for?
Let's go compare. And if I had a little bit more time, I'd go look this up too. Maybe I'll look it up in a second and compare them side by side. But I compared them side by side. If it's already in the Constitution, then you have the right to, all Floridians have the right to hunt and fish.
What are we changing?
What's
An amendment means we're changing something. Yeah. So what's
but it's
changing?
Not worded that way.
See,
it doesn't mention that they're changing. It doesn't mention that.
You're building my case here, Mike.
Oh, that's the exact case. I'm 100% bought into it.
You're building my case is that we don't really, the majority of people that vote, right, of the 60-something% that actually vote. And then if you look in Florida, the amount of people that even voted for some of those amendments is maybe a third of actual.
Well, thank goodness.
Thank goodness. That's a fair point. Thank goodness that everybody didn't just go vote based off of what they thought the headline was.
Those are smart people.
But this is
those
also
are smart people.
But this is
not
also
because they're educated on the thing, because they know they're not educated.
This
they're
is
not
why I don't vote. This is seriously why I don't vote. I'm not educated on Donald Trump. I'm not educated on Kamala, other than the headlines, and I'm definitely not educated on the amendments.
And so I applaud you for it.
Choose to not play in the game.
Amen, sir. Amen. So let me tell you what this was, and then we can have a podcast in 4 years to see if there's gill netting off our shores.
I like it.
So,
that's what it is.
So the big difference, there's two differences in this and what's there.
Okay.
One, which I'm not really sure if I'm for or against it, but specifies that it's the preferred means of responsibly managing and controlling fish and wildlife.
Okay.
You do a hunt.
Yeah.
They say that some deer are too popular. Let's go hunt them. And to be honest, I'm not against that. I can't tell anything sinister is hidden in there.
Right.
Not to say there isn't, but I can't tell. The other one is the including by the use of traditional methods. tell me what the fuck traditional methods means, because god damn it, you should define it.
Does that mean I can't mow down a field of hogs from a helicopter with an AR-15? Is that what we're saying? Like, is that a traditional method?
No, I don't know.
It
could be, but so is poisons. So are gill nets. So are all of the things that we've decided aren't good for our environments. We've made them illegal. But the point is, it's not defined.
Right. Just the headline.
A legal fucking loophole, and
interesting.
Could be able to do things under the guise of, look, it's a traditional method that used to be illegal, yesterday, and now is no longer technically illegal, because I have a really good lawyer who can prove to you that it's a traditional method, and now it's in the Constitution of the fucking state of Florida.
So it's a game. All of this, Mike, you are proving my point and why I don't feel bad for a second.
Well, if you would have just been educated and voted against it, we wouldn't be.
Oh, my one vote. Yes. No,
your
vote
reason.
matters. Yes. But you are part of me woke up today and I was like, man, regardless of whatever happened, maybe I should have tried to educate myself more. Maybe I should have tried to play in this game, But
and I think you can applaud somebody who goes and gets educated to go do this thing. Like,
of course.
Like I said, I do think there's some things that matter. The thing you want to just, in my opinion, you just don't want to be a sheep that's told go through that door, and then you go through that door.
Right.
Just go do some education.
Yeah.
Know what the heck you're putting your vote toward, because your vote does matter.
Yeah.
Don't go and say, well, I voted and all I wanted to do was fill out the Scantron so I can wear the sticker.
And post that on social media and feel really good about it.
Because those are the easiest population to control. And the guys controlling, there aren't nice people at the top trying to manipulate you. If you're being manipulated, you're probably being manipulated by some sinister shit.
Sure. But we are the people that they want to vote. They want us to come out and be a part of this. So I get, again,
who does? Who wants you to go out and vote?
I think Republicans specifically wanted the male vote, and they wanted the young, obviously I'm not on the younger side anymore. I'm probably not the one they're talking about, but they wanted the male vote specifically. I think it was Elon that said something about,
I just heard that driving over here. Like 6% men or 9% of men.
It's primarily driven by women, which I didn't consider that. I mean, but again, I'm really glad, and I talked to this about with Mayor Keith too, is just that this season is going to be over for another 4 years, and just the breath of fresh air that I think that's going to bring. Because some people in my life are more political versus others. Some people have very strong opinions, and some people love to tell you those opinions, which I think is fantastic. But you are helping me feel really good about the fact that I did not play in this game. If that
good.
Yeah, it's just
you responsibly did not vote.
Yes, that's a good way to look at it. Yeah. Wow.
I've been kind of chiming that, and I think a lot of that. Yeah. I probably had that idea in my head for a little bit, but having this podcast with you and then being able to say that to you and you give me the reasons, I'm like, okay, there's something to that. Like, just don't be a sheep.
You know what it was is when you came in, when I was having a meeting downstairs, and you were talking to us about trying to get Bobby on the ballot. You're like, whatever you want to do, I'm not saying vote for him, it's get him on the ballot, and you wanted me to sign. I said, I'm not even registered. You're like what?
Yeah.
I feel like I caught you off guard on that one, and then that's when I started to tell you briefly. I had a whole group of people there. Yeah.
And I'll tell you why. Yeah. Because you seem very active and aware. You're not somebody who has his head in the sand.
Right.
You really, really care about family.
100%.
You care about the people around you, the people who you're responsible for.
Yes.
And I made the mistake of lumping being aware of politics into that. And that was a mistake, because I don't think they have to go hand in hand. And that helped me wake up to the fact that the people around you might be way more important than national politics.
Well, you were the one that got me to really start to think about community more. I really love your approach and thought. Even the town we're sitting in right now, your thoughts towards Cocoa Beach. You've been here a long time, and even some of the recent conversations we've had with the mayor about things like I think more maybe in my life, I will pay more attention and get involved in the local political scene. You know, I think maybe that would have an impact on me if one of our favorite surf breaks turned into a hotel I couldn't go to anymore, right? Or something along that nature, just as an example. I know that's not what's happening.
It's more immediate.
Just throwing that out there, but it impacts me more.
Inflation is not going to change, but this thing could be different next week.
Yes.
Yeah.
But also to your point of,
as long as nuclear war doesn't happen. Sorry.
but if it does, what can I do? What can I really do about
that you have the foresight to know what leader will prevent us from getting into nuclear war is
arrogant.
Yeah. And now, if you think, the way I even looked at this last political race, and again, you've influenced me in a little stop complimenting.
I think it's likewise.
We should stop complimenting each other. These guys go get a room. But so I was gonna vote. So I was a big Bobby Kennedy guy, and I brought the Bobby Kennedy campaign and the ground roots effort here to Cocoa Beach and Brevard County, doing beach cleanups with the branding of Bobby Kennedy, and then that turned into what was going to be a whole nationwide park cleanup, where all around the United States, all the Bobby Kennedy people were organizing beach cleanups and park cleanups, and everyone was going to do it on the exact same day. And I thought that was such a brilliant move, because it showed a community like Cocoa Beach that a presidential candidate cares, comes down, and this is something that's actually affecting them. Right. He's campaigning, and in campaigning is making my city more beautiful. No one's gonna bitch. Bobby Kennedy's quit cleaning our beaches.
Yeah, what are you doing?
No one's gonna complain about that. So I thought that was such a brilliant move. Yeah. Sadly, he ended up dropping out of the race like a week before this was actually gonna happen, and it lost its steam. Yeah. But now imagine if every candidate, instead of waving flags at you and just getting supporters to honk, picked up a piece of trash while doing that. Like, imagine if you had Trump supporters walking down the beach picking up trash, saying vote for Trump. Like, geez, that would sway people a hell of a lot more, and would beautify everything. Anyway, so I was gonna probably vote for Trump. I was on the fence. Bobby Kennedy's not on the Florida ballot.
Right.
Okay. If he got 5% of the vote, in the next election, his party would automatically be on the ballot. And he could give that and knight that to whoever he wanted. But he wasn't. My wife decided to vote for Bobby Kennedy. Joyce, it isn't Poland. Decided to vote for Bobby Kennedy because
don't pull a Gino where I got to cut something out of here.
we were behind him 100%. He was uniting America. We had Republicans, Democrats all working together, having brilliant, loving conversations with each other. So she decided to vote for him, and I was like, yeah, but God, this really does mean a lot, and I'd hate blah 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 blah. I was going to go vote for Trump, and then I think either something you said or just how my opinion has swayed a little bit, having family be so important, and then stuff that my wife and I have been working with is being united on whatever we're doing. And I've never really thought like husband and wife should vote the same way. I'm like, dude, you have your freedoms, do whatever you want. But I decided to vote for Bobby Kennedy in here, even though it doesn't count, just to be united with our family, kind of going towards something. And I'm not the only one. There were a bunch of people in the Bobby Kennedy campaign who decided to write his name in.
Really?
He doesn't actually show up. They don't get counted.
Oh, that's cool, though.
But
man.
You do it. You know, like, your vote still counts. Because you did it. You put his name on it.
Right.
I think that really does mean a lot. But God, I was close to going Trump. Not because I like Trump. But because the people he surrounded himself with, Tulsi Gabbard, even Ron Paul, which I don't know if you know Ron Paul, libertarian, who I don't think he doesn't endorse anybody, like for anything.
I felt like his
came out of nowhere.
His tail end of this race, Trump put together a really good game plan.
He somehow united the. Now there's a lot of people who are very polarized about this. So if you are. I'm sorry that it came out this way. I'm sorry.
A couple dudes talking shit. Get over it.
You feel so hurt right now.
Get over it.
The wounds will heal. But who would have guessed Trump was going to bring both sides together? Like, that's absurd.
No. But
he has half the Democrats, half the people who are surrounding him are Democrats.
Yeah. I do think there is a problem with the red versus blue idea in general, but I hope things kind of calm down. I hope we can all breathe. I know you said you haven't yet. I hope you can get to that point to where you're
We'll see if
breathing.
He gets into office.
Yes. Yeah. True.
I don't know. Maybe I have a little bit of a tinfoil hat on. But
like, they're going to take him out, or what do you mean? Like, what?
I'm surprised he ended up winning. Like, I'm surprised that.
Really? No.
I mean, we manipulate foreign elections all the time.
CIA tactic?
Yeah, and there's a whole playbook on how to do it.
Right.
They were running some of that playbook on us. Russia sure would like to rig an election one way or another.
Sure.
A lot of countries are probably dipping their finger in. I went over and voted. Fucking no security there. There's no way to count in anything. California, it's illegal to even ask someone voting for
their ID.
And it's like,
that's a weird one. That's that one.
I mean, not that they can get any bluer and it'll count more, but
right.
It's just, it's so absurdly not secure.
Yeah.
And I thought that the establishment would want Kamala. So I'm honestly just a little confused.
Yeah. See, I felt the other way. I felt like the momentum was pushing more towards Trump. And maybe that's just the
You mean real votes?
Yeah.
Or do you mean the establishment? So when I say the establishment, I'm thinking like the puppeteers up top.
Which are who? To me...
Chuck Schumer is the name that comes to mind.
Okay, yeah. I felt more, at least... the popular vote, the people that I know, that I knew more people that I was pretty confident those individuals are going to vote for Trump versus the other way. And then it seemed like, at least in the things that I pay attention to, he was getting to me more, which I thought was interesting, just in terms of like where he's promoting himself and the things we were doing. And then Elon, I pay attention to. He's a little out there in a lot of things, he's got a lot of different ideas, but pretty sharp guy, in terms of his ability to, from a company standpoint, the things he's done. I thought he was an interesting one to get on board, but just the people that started to support him made me think a little bit more. But again, not in a way to be nothing got me out of my house to go vote for anybody. And maybe that'll change someday. I'm not, me on most things. Like, I'm not set on this is how it's going to be for forever. The point I try to make is, I don't know, on a lot of different topics. Amen. And maybe someday there will be somebody or something that I feel, motivated enough to actually go make my voice heard. But to me, it's, I don't know.
I was jealous of the Bernie guys. Like, Bernie was such an interesting, and we could chase it off of politics because I got another question to ask you to follow up with something before. But the Bernie folks, man, like, Jesus, there was so much energy behind him. Yeah. He was a firecracker, and I was so jealous. Like, I wanted to be on that bandwagon, except I didn't agree with him on any of the policies. But I wanted to be behind that. Like, so, when Bobby Kennedy was my Bernie. Right. The things he said, it matched exactly the things that I have come in the last 30 years of my life to believe. And it's like damn near spot on. And I'm not a guy who just goes and agrees with everybody. Right. Everything that somebody says. But anyway, you mentioned something before about politics being like religion, and that people just want to belong to something. They're all looking for answers, and they're looking out there, and it's almost like human nature, right? That we're all looking for this. Another way to say
or
that
60% of people.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, the politics is theirs. The other ones still have their religion.
Exactly.
But the one way to say that is everyone has a God-shaped hole in their heart. I'm sure you've heard this. Yes. And they're all trying to fill it. Yeah. But the only thing that fills it is God. Now, you not being religious, I was interested in your perspective of what that thing is. Like, why is that in all of us? And the Christian reason is because, well, God fits there. Right? But you not being religious, what's the drive, that gaping hole in your heart? Why is that there, if not God? and I'm not expecting you to have an answer, but something to think about, and we can talk through.
But I think it's probably, if I were to just, off the cuff, what it most likely, if I were to think what that may be, let's say maybe most likely is, again, there is some angst to being a human. Like what this consciousness that we have, right? We think we have. It doesn't seem like other animals have the same level. Are we a higher species? Is there something that we are looking for or trying to understand because of the position that we're in the hierarchy of animals on this planet, right? And then also, what happens when you die? And there is such a will to survive in every species. So there is this will to stay here, be a part of this, pass on our genetics and our bloodlines and those kind of things. So I would think, if I'm just thinking about it out loud, it's most likely something along that nature, where we don't know why, but a lot of us think that we are the superior animal in this chain of things, but that's probably something to do with it.
So why do we need a religion though? Whether it be politics, why is that hole there that people are filling with politics or filling with diet and exercise, whatever that thing there, why is that there evolutionarily? Because is there a way that makes us survive or
probably it gives you a sense of community. It gives you a sense of you're a part of something, and maybe that makes you net happier, net more productive, or gives you people that you could be around that. So
actually that's actually perfect, because it lets you be a part of the tribe, and then whatever's not in your tribe is not human, so you can push it kind of they're the enemy, they're not your friends, and so you can stop your empathy right there. So you don't have empathy with the other guys, and it's much easier to kill somebody you don't have empathy with.
Sure.
I guess it kind of makes sense. And so, which is exactly what's happening in politics, right? Right. People think that
bro, one of the funniest things I like to watch after an election is depending on who wins, is the sheer look of sadness at the watch parties of whatever political candidate didn't win.
You're twisted.
Even funnier, because it looks like their team just lost the Super Bowl. That's exactly how I relate it. They're super fans of people that paint their face for whatever team they want to be on. Or the news correspondents, right? If a Republican loses, go watch Fox and listen to those guys. If a Democrat loses, go watch NBC. To sit there this morning and watch NBC anchors be like, the political earthquake that's about to happen now that Trump's going back in. It's interesting to see, but also I've never had that. I've never had this desire to be a part of some team or try to find this sense of community.
Do you watch sports like that?
No.
Okay, so you're really just out of that idea.
I watch more sports now than I ever have. The only sports I really watch is fights. I watch fights.
I'm way into that.
And I watch the Tampa Bay Bucks now because my wife and my son and my father-in-law are super fans, dude. They just went out to so I have to. I've been married for 15 years now. I have to be a Tampa Bay Bucks fan. No, I'm joking. But and my son started playing football, so I watch a little bit of football. Okay. But I've never been I'm gonna buy a jersey. Or I've gone to some sporting events, and dudes even low level what was the not the Arena League, one of the low level leagues, not the NFL, the one before that, and dudes are there painted up in the color of their team, of these dudes that they're not in the NFL. It's not even the highest level. I'm like, what compels people? What is it that guy has inside of him that this is what he chose to do with his time and his day, to paint himself up and go stand out here and do it? I never had that. No, I never had that.
I guess it's not so outrageous to think how divided we are in politics when you compare it to a football game. There's a lot of Raider violence after Raiders lost.
100%. My son was out in Kansas City for Monday night game. The Bucks were playing the Chiefs, so they flew out there to watch the Monday night game. Big deal. But they're all Bucks geared up and whatever. Some old dude was behind him. My son's 12. He looks like he's probably 16 or whatever. So I don't know what the guy thought. But they're in hostile freaking territory. And this was, I don't know if you watched Monday night. It was a very intense game. It went all the way to overtime. And the Chiefs are 7-0, so they were undefeated coming into this. And And then, so anytime they score a touchdown, they do the chant, oh. So my son turned around when the Bucs scored to just high five this old guy behind him, and he flicks him off. And my son made some like, you know,
how old's
like,
your son?
12. Oh. Yeah. So my son's like, you know, I'm going to remember that next time. He made some quick joke and turned around and was done with it. But, you know, the point is that some people take those things so seriously, man. And it's just, I'm envious of sometimes because I'm like, damn, like you really are into this and this really impacts you. Like am I a sociopath? Am I a sociopath because like nothing impacts me in that way or like whatever, you know? But I don't know.
We'll get you golfing. We're going to do a new sport where we're going to golf and ruck simultaneously. You said you could ruck for like 12 miles.
I have rucked for 12 miles.
We're going to put that to the test. We're going to.
Can you swing a golf club rucking?
We will find out. The guys behind us will hate us, but
speed it up.
We should be the last people on the. Can you pick the last? Can you just sign up and say, hey, we would just be the last?
I have no idea. I was looking at a couple golf courses in Cocoa Beach again. Mayor Keith was talking about some golf courses.
Oh, by the way, Mayor Keith won.
Yeah, he did.
So congratulations.
Shout out Mayor Keith.
Talked to us the other day.
Interesting dude, man. We talked for a few hours, and you know, I've never met a mayor. You know, I didn't know what to expect, but you know, man, freaking former professional skateboarder. Yeah. He showed me a video of him on a longboard skateboard, which I've seen longboards. I've been on them. I didn't know people were doing like shortboard tricks on longboard skateboards. So this dude is
never seen it.
This dude is 360 flipping a skateboard or sex changing a skateboard. Like the videos, a longboard. Yeah, man. And he had his own pro model. And he's an interesting cat, man. He's on a lot of cool stuff. And then he showed me like stunt videos on his motorcycle. He showed me like, dude, his Hummer is badass, dude. He has like a twin turbo in there.
Because you texted me something about something about him. I'm like, he's a pretty cool mayor. I only see him riding his little bicycle around town, and I'm thinking like, does he even have a car? And then they find out he pulled up into this place.
I texted you. I was like, did you see what he rolled up in? And now what's funny is I've seen him out the window. I've seen the Hummer driving around out the office here. He's got 2 Hummers, man. He's got one on 40s that he off-roads, and he showed me this video of him burying the thing, dude. Like, I mean, like water coming in buried.
I have a Jeep Wrangler, and I've had to go swimming out the window a few times.
Have you really? You don't have a snorkel on that, right?
No.
Yeah.
But they make them stock nice with the air intake. They shaft it up into the far right, so it's when you go in the water, just make sure you're going in the water like
nice. Angle it in. Dude, man, we got to get out there in the woods too because you know, I got my truck, you know, and I got my side by side. I've loved, man, just. That's the kind of shit I like to do, you know? Get
that is way better than golf. Yeah. You know what we should do is we should find a way to play golf in that environment.
Like a redneck mud hole golf course?
Something like that. Yeah.
That'd be interesting. That'd be interesting. Dude, we have done an hour and 40. Okay, that was pretty good, man.
What was the other thing?
We went on. I introduced you as my political correspondent. We spent a lot of time
about politics. Good. I felt a little guilty talking too much politics.
No, I mean we kind of discussed this beforehand that maybe we would talk politics a little bit.
I do have one thing that I did want to bring up.
What you got?
This is something that I've been wrestling with maybe the past few months. And then I just heard somebody else kind of mention the same thing. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, how do you deal with that? So it was a soldier who was talking about his time in Iraq. And recently talking about like a lot of soldiers they join because they're trying to defend their country. They don't realize that they're more or less, in a lot of cases, doing the bidding of some politician who's having a nice lobster dinner.
Mm-hmm. Who would never be out there themselves.
Yeah, exactly. And they went into it with good intent, but Jesus Christ, some of them got hijacked into doing things. And so he remembers, he goes through this laundry list of people he remembers killing. Okay. And he did a night raid on some house, busts down the door, sees a guy, the friend of this guy who he remembers killing, shoots him, busts into the bedroom. The guy's wife's there. The guy goes and reaches for a gun, and they shoot him. And then they clear the house and get out of there. Okay. And so killed him in front of his wife. Yada yada. Business as usual. Continue on. He was a baddie or whatever. But he remembers after getting out of that war, I think it was Iraq. Sorry if somehow you see this. But he ends up leaving. And he remembers him because he realized the politics behind why he was doing it was kind of like scumbaggy. Like, why were we there anyway?
In his country.
Yeah. In his country, in his home at night, bust down the door. He's like, and the joke, the way he's like, if I would have ran into him in London, would we have got along with him? Was he a funny guy? You know, and then he goes through, why did I shoot him? Oh, well, he was reaching for a gun. Yeah, why was he reaching for a gun?
Because
some dude just busted down to his house with his wife at 2 a.m. in the morning.
Damn.
So then there are a few... So there's two sides to every coin. But there's a lot of those cases, too. Say a SWAT team or whatever else busts down your house here in America. And this is the thing that I'm wrestling with. If somebody busts down your door, generally people are like, oh, go shoot them. Here in Florida, they're like, hey, better not do that, I'll shoot you. But what if a SWAT team busts down your door for whatever reason? Maybe they got the wrong house. But you have 5 seconds to realize what the fuck's going on. People at 2 a.m. in the morning, they just shot your brother. Like, what are you going to do? I mean, you're going to... I hope I would grab the gun and shoot him. There are a number of cases, some famous ones. Where was this? Maybe up in Michigan. Some guy who number of FBI agents was spying on or whatever. They thought something. They ended up getting agents. They put in ghillie suits to go into his property to get closer and spy on them. Well, the guy's son...
Are you talking about Ruby Ridge?
Yes.
Okay.
So the guy's son comes back with his dogs. The dog, correct me where I got this wrong, the dog smells somebody and goes over. There's a dude in a fucking ghillie suit with a rifle in his front yard. So he goes into the house to go get a gun, and they have a shoot-off, and the whole family gets shot. They shoot the mother holding the kid.
I think they killed the son first, if I remember correctly. They wore ghillie suits. They went onto this guy's property... And well, what are you wrestling with? What I didn't catch that.
Well, if I see a bunch of guys in ghillie suits on my property with rifles, I'm probably not gonna, what do you do first? Is it, oh, hey guys, who are you? Fuck. So let's say somebody comes into your house at night. I had a number of friends who, not because they were intelligent, they were super intelligent at the time or anything, but they were really drunk and they walked home from the bar, went into some random dude's house and slept on the couch. But, I don't want to go shoot a cop, but if you're also assuming that's a cop. Like, just because a guy has a uniform doesn't mean he's a cop.
Right.
So if a cop goes and busts your door down, you have no reason in your mind to get your door busted down.
Right.
Your family's in the other room. Do you shoot him?
Man.
He has a gun pulled already?
It's a lot to unpack there, but...
have you ever thought about that and how... where, and I think it's important to figure it out before it happens.
I've never thought about that.
Otherwise, I don't know what I would do in the moment.
The thing I think about is how quickly can I get to where I have the closest firearm? How quickly could I chamber around? And then I would make a decision. That's what I would hope. And the way I would prepare for a situation like that is being comfortable with my firearm, being comfortable shooting, and having the right equipment. If I'm in my house, where's my hollow point, right? Like, I don't want to be shooting a full metal jacket in my house where my kids are sleeping, right? That would probably be where I would think, but...
Okay, so you did that. You're behind the bed. You have your family behind you. A cop comes to the door with his gun drawn.
Man, you really think about this?
All the time.
Really?
Because if you don't, what the fuck are you going to do? Like, you don't want to hesitate in that moment.
This has never crossed my mind.
And I think if you shoot the cop, they'll kill you or throw you in jail. So it's like,
well, if he's by himself, I think they're supposed to identify themselves, and I hope never.
Yeah, but any person who's dressed up as a cop to come steal your kid is also going to probably say, "Hey, I'm a cop."
Damn, man, I know.
So this also came from I was in Vegas on a work trip, sitting in a bar, and then I ended up. There were some girls that we were probably ladies of the night. I would assume.
Ladies of the night. I would assume. Okay.
I'm like, it'd be great to get in a drawing competition with a prostitute, right? So, I think I was
drawing?
At the bar. I think it was drawing? At the bar.
Okay,
yeah, this is kind of just like drawing cartoons. Drawing. So I was just at the bar. Now, I don't even think this was my idea. It's probably hers. But I was sitting at the bar, and I'm like just drawing cartoons.
Okay.
It's like late at night. I don't want to gamble anymore, and just sitting there for some drinks. I'm drawing some cartoons, and they're hitting it off with probably rich people, old guys in suits. And then she comes over and asks, like, what am I drawing? I'm like, I don't know, I'm just drawing some stuff. And she's like, can I draw? Fuck, this will be funny. Like a funny experience, like getting interviewed by the CIA. Right? So it's just a funny experience to go through. So I gave her a paper, and she's a really fucking good artist.
Okay.
She's really, really good.
Okay.
And so she's just about to finish. I'm like, oh, that's so great. And then two guys come up and say that they're cops, grab three girls, put their hands behind their back, zip tie them, and just like pick them up and take off.
Damn.
And I'm like, I didn't finish your drawing.
Can I see a badge?
Well, that's the thing. So I'm like, wow, okay. Well, I guess the prostitutes got arrested. Then I was sitting there finishing my drink, and I'm like, I didn't see a fucking badge.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, fuck.
Damn.
And I'm like, it happened so fast. 10 seconds.
Damn.
10 seconds. I was just telling her she draws nice, and then they're gone. Like, I look back, I don't even know where they went. 10 seconds. And I'm like, there's probably human trafficking like crazy in Vegas. Did these girls just get kidnapped?
Damn.
So then I spend the whole walk home back to my hotel or whatever, calling the police, trying to figure out if these cops were real or not, and they had to go call a bunch of different departments to try to figure out. But there's a decent chance, I'd say probably over a single-digit % chance that those 2 or 3 girls just got kidnapped. I don't think that that's unreasonable. And even if they had a badge, they said badge, and then they went
out. Yeah.
And so it's like, what is that supposed to mean? What a fucking kidnapper can't go buy a plastic badge? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
So I followed it up. Turns out whoever was at the station called me back an hour and a half later. And said, no, we validated it. Thanks for the call.
That it was legit.
Yeah, it was legit. Okay. We talked to the 2 cops. They were undercover.
Yeah.
But like,
here's what I think you need. I think you need to take a couple mushrooms and learn that we're all in this together, man. Hopefully no one's going to be busted into your house.
Though, man. Like, why do you practice firearm stuff? Because it could happen.
Yes, but I think the probability of it is very low, and I do think if you're gonna, like we've been talking about with some of the, like with Caroline and Nicole and them, like if you're gonna have a firearm, I think you should know how it works, how to operate it, because to think that you just have it and now you're safe, and some of them really scare you. Like women specifically scare you with some of the stories, some of the stuff they have to deal with, you know. And it's hard to relate, being a man. But I don't. I haven't put that much.
Isn't this part of that same preparation? Like it's the preparation, it's the practice for the situation.
Yeah. I don't know what I would do, man. So
I don't hear a lot of people thinking about that either. They don't ask that question. Generally, they say if someone comes to my house, I'm going to shoot them. It's like, really?
And then like ask questions later. Like
my drunk friend comes to sleep on your couch by accident, you blow him away. I doubt it. Like I doubt you're going to shoot that guy.
I would really hope I would be in the right space to try to analyze as quickly as possible, figure out what's happening before I take a shot at somebody in my home. But if you really feel that you're threatened or your family is threatened, if it was a cop or not a cop, man, I'd be shooting.
Cop with a gun drawn.
Why are you in my house? I haven't done anything.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Like,
and people have raided the wrong house. It's happened.
Damn. I've never thought.
We got the wrong address.
I've never thought about this, man.
It's happened.
Yeah. That would be crazy.
It's happened way more than once.
Yeah, a guy I know, his brother was in SWAT, and he's a police officer still, and he was one of the first ones to go on scene at Columbine. Man, like freaking devastating story. I feel for those people, man. Like that would be a very difficult job to be a police officer. You know, I hope I don't ever have to deal with them very often because I just don't want to. You know, it's sort of that logic. But man, that would be a difficult job. I think we're very fortunate to have them, but I hope I never have to make the decision if I have to shoot one of them.
That's one of those no win-win situations.
That's
right?
a no-win
The cop didn't
situation.
deserve it a lot of times. Like if he gets the wrong address, and it happens. The cop didn't deserve it, but
But didn't that happen where recently, like within the last couple of years, they went in and shot the wrong girl? There was a girl they shot, you know, and it happens both sides. But damn, man, like
well, and then that haunts the cop for a long time too. Like, I'm not saying that cops are bad by any means of the imagination.
Well, some of
I'm
them,
just saying, sure. There's everybody bad. There's bad people out there, but
any business, anything. There's some people that should not be in those positions. You know, like because who would want to? It's like who would want to be the president, right? Who would want to be a police officer? Somebody that wants to protect their community. Maybe they want to make where they live a better place. They want to whatever, or they like the badge, they like the gun, they like the power. It's the same thing as the president, in my opinion, or any political figure for that matter. Like, what is your intention of being this position? And I think you're going to have both. In all
and then when they first join, they could have one intent, and
it could change
20 years,
100%, based off what you see, based off of who you meet, what you have to encounter. But it concerns me that you think about this regularly.
Oh, I even go way deeper than that. But anyway, thank you for toying around with that idea with me.
Anything else? Anything else on your mind?
No, I think I've got out of the session what I needed. Thank you, Doctor.
Doctor, please. You know who's coming on at the end of the month is an actual psychiatrist, which is going to be interesting. I have never spoken to a psychiatrist before. You think so?
Oh, yeah. You're doomed.
I'm excited, man. I'm excited. Local Cocoa Beach one who specializes in something called rapid resolution therapy. She's one of the pioneers on that, where they shrink down the amount of therapy sessions to find a resolution for people. So I'm interested to talk with her. And then they also do a lot of ketamine treatments here locally for people that have serious issues, you know, that they can't overcome. So I'm anxious to talk to her coming up at the end of the month. So let you know how that goes.
There's so much in psychology that is fascinating to me.
Man.
I look forward. I'll watch that one.
Yeah, that's gonna be fun. And then on Friday this week, I got the director of the Florida Surf Museum coming in. That should be a good time. Got all kinds of fun stuff going on, man.
And we got to get Evan Ernst in here with who we play for.
I wanted to ask you about that one, man. I'd love to get him in here, talk through that. You know, I've heard you talk about it multiple times. You know, I'm just curious.
A lot of people local know who we play for.
Yeah,
it's pretty big.
Let's do that, man. That'd be a fun one. Yeah, cool, bro. This was fun. Yeah, man. Appreciate it.